I don't really give
Kirk!
the way life is this year. Doing my best to handle it like that. And yeah, it is what it is.
And so will we in fact see a different package? Will Chris be able to suffer the way he needs to in order to show up at his best? Coach Greg, in today's video, CBum can't retire. You were thinking I was going to say it's time to retire, but no, CBum can't retire. And for more reasons than one. And so CBum is the GOAT of classic physique. He's already won 5 consecutive Mr. Olympia titles. He's soon going to be competing for his 6th. He's dieting, going through all the training, using performance-enhancing drugs. He's now a newfound daddy CBum. And so is it in fact time to retire? Well, my personal belief is he's going to win by a landslide yet again. Despite the fact that we got a shredded vintage genetics Wesley Vizards hot on his tail, we've got Urs and we've got Ramon Dino that have been pressing Chris Bumstead for years. I don't think they'll ever be able to beat CBum. The only thing that could prevent CBum from winning is CBum himself. Perhaps overtraining, not dieting hard enough, or coming in with a serious injury. And so reason number 1 that CBum can't retire is because he keeps winning. Winning has a domino effect. It makes you want to keep winning. Imagine the dopamine, the thrill, the rush of getting up on stage and hearing 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 time Mr. Olympia champion, 10 time. Imagine how enjoyable that is. And remember, CBum doesn't compete throughout the year. He saves everything for that one moment on stage, for perhaps 5 minutes. And so the entirety of the year, all of his training, it centers around one focus. And one focus alone is that to be crowned the Mr. Olympia champion. He doesn't compete in powerlifting. He's not a weightlifter. He works out, he picks things up, he puts them down, all with the goal of winning on stage. And so after the show, he'll bulk up for a couple of months, and then he'll main gain for the rest of the year, and then he'll go on a diet, and rinse, repeat, and that is the formula. And remember, Chris Bumstead, he built an empire based on the fact that he is in fact a bodybuilder. He's a part owner of a supplement company. He's selling clothes. He's basically done everything. And he's got over 24 million followers on Instagram. But one thing I've noticed is that people only really gravitate towards him during his prep and shortly after each consecutive Mr. Olympia title. And so I've been tracking him on YouTube just to see how he's been doing, and I noticed a pattern. Every time he gets close to the Mr. Olympia Championships, he gains tons of followers, sometimes millions. And after that, it definitely starts to fall off. And so on YouTube, for example, right now, you can follow this on Social Blade. You go on socialblade.com, you type in Chris Bumstead, and you can see all of the results. You can do the same thing for me, you can do the same thing for Derek, Jeff Nipper, the list goes on and on. And so you can see in the last 30 days, he's gained 20,000 followers. Now, during his Mr. Olympia Championships, he's often gaining 200,000 followers in a month, 10 times more. And so if Chris Bumstead continues to compete, he's going to continue to grow his following. And with that comes more recognition and ultimately more money. And so imagine all your life growing exponentially, having more followers, more success, and even more money. That, I can tell you, is something very difficult to suddenly shut off. Chris Bumstead likes to follow Andrew Huberman, and he understands this. He knows about the chase for dopamine. And so if he does in fact retire, he's going to have to get used to having fewer followers, fewer successes, and getting his dopamine from somewhere else. Remember, I was in fact a bodybuilder. I've done what Chris has done. I just sucked at it in comparison to him. But let me tell you, you get a huge rush, the dopamine, the thrill of competing. I've done 59 competitions, and so I know almost better than everyone just how hard it is to actually retire. You don't want to hang up the posing trunks. Every year you go through the bulk, the main gaining, the cut, and you see yourself on stage looking superhuman. And to suddenly have to stop, to go into your off season and never again get shredded, and perhaps to pull the plug on performance enhancing drugs. very difficult. Now, everybody's different. Some people hold more muscle than others while on HRT, or perhaps they go completely off. But if you're trying to live a long and healthy life, you can't simply blast and cruise year after year for life. And so monthly gained views for Chris Bumstead. And so in January, close to 30 million views. That was just after his last Olympia championship. And as of right now, just over 6 million. And so less than a quarter. And so essentially what that's saying is there were 4 times more people watching him on YouTube when he's competing than right now when he's not competing. And consider this, the more eyeballs are on his channel, the more people are watching Chris, the more they're likely gonna buy his products. And so if Chris continues to compete, he's gonna continue to make more money than last time. But if he is to retire, the money, of course, is gonna be less. But does it really matter? Do you not think that Chris has more than enough money to now retire and live comfortably for the rest of his life? Of course he does. And so why should he continue? Well, he's so good at bodybuilding. Yep, it's a great reason to do it. But what about his health? Oh, he's being monitored by a doctor. Everything's healthy. He's not using abusive doses, right? Wrong! There's no way you can convince Coach Greg that all CBum is doing is HRT, that it's all monitored by a doctor, that he's got perfect blood work. It's not possible. You can't be a Mr. Olympia champion while doing just HRT with your blood work being perfect. And remember, he has an autoimmune disease. He's been hospitalized in preparation for previous Mr. Olympia championships. And so every time he competes, he's putting his health at risk, his life in jeopardy. But if he does retire, of course, fewer people are going to watch his channel. Less people are going to be there for him. Less people are going to know who he is. And eventually, call it 20 years from now, many people, perhaps they won't even know who CBum is. The next generation will be cheering for the next hero. You can't be the brightest star in the sky forever. Eventually, it's going to burn out and fade and go into darkness. It's deep, guys. And so the fact that his business is dependent on him competing, the fact that he gets this dopamine rush from competing, how is Chris going to retire? Well, I'll tell you how. Chris is going to have to pivot. It's like in basketball, you can't get a charging call. You have to pivot. You have to go around them. And so what could replace his bodybuilding career? His family. He's got a beautiful wife and child. He is in fact a father. And if he does in fact miss the rush of competing, he can compete in something else. Chris is an athlete. Have we not seen Chris slam dunking a basketball in the past? Chris is a very skilled athlete. He can do almost anything. Now, perhaps he won't be the best at it in the world, but does that really matter? All that matters is you're making improvements. And I can tell you from experience, I was doing triathlons, badminton, basketball, played almost every sport. Was I really good at any of them? Not really. But eventually I began powerlifting and bodybuilding, and I really found my true calling. Was very good at those two disciplines. But since that time, I've stopped powerlifting and I've stopped bodybuilding. And now what do? I compete in bike racing. Am I really good at it? Not really. I'm I or mid, as the kids would call it, but that's okay. I compare myself to myself, not to other people. And so I'm just trying to be the best version of myself. And so Chris can do the same. Chris, for example, could take up bike racing and race against Coach Greg. He can do anything. And so what the main thing is that Chris chooses something to keep him healthy and happy. And so will in fact this be Chris's last time at the Mr. Olympia stage? I do personally think so, but you never know.
What are you trying to do this year to properly mitigate variables?
I used to say no 90% of the time. Now I say no 99% of the time.
And so if he continues, eventually he's going to always have to say no. All he'll be focused on is bodybuilding. Hey, do you want to watch the baby? Nope, I have to train. I have to diet. I have to get in my cardio. I can't be there for my family. And so I don't believe that Chris is going to continue.
And honestly, just constantly prioritizing what's most important to me. And the reality is it's family, then bodybuilding, then business.
And as you know, bodybuilding is a very individual sport. It takes a toll on your behavior, your attitude, your mindset. And so if he does continue to bodybuilding, it's going to eventually take a toll on his family.
And that's the way it is right now. If it wasn't like that, my family would hate me. If it wasn't like that, I'd lose the Olympia.
And so he's already foreshadowing, saying, I'm giving it my best. Family comes first. I don't want my family to hate me. And so what happens if Chris has to do 3 hours of cardio a day the last 2 weeks? if he's on perhaps 1,800 calories. Perhaps he'll just say no. Years prior, I would have done it. I would have done anything to be the champion, but this year, family first. I don't have time to do that cardio, and I don't have time to do that diet.
I don't really give
Turk!
the way life is this year. Do my best to handle it like that. And yeah, it is what it is. Just not overextending myself as I may have done in the past.
And so will we in fact see a different package? Will Chris be able to suffer the way he needs to in order to show up at his best? Did we just see a shadow of doubt creeping in for the first time? Is he quietly bracing himself? What if? Saying no 99% of the time, a prep mood. And so Chris, if you need some help, let us know. GO2 Max and Turk Builder, that can help you harder than last time. GO2 Max give you more endurance to do more cardio, especially when you're dieting. When you have lack of energy, GO2 Max is going to give you the extra energy you need to complete your workouts. And Turk Builder, remember, it's not banned by WADA. You won't fail a drug test. It's going to allow you to train harder, get more muscle, and give you more aggression than freaking last time. Interested in any of the supplements? Code Greg, 15% off. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like the video if you in fact liked it. Watch one of those two bloops. Of course, the cookbooks, the Circle Diet Book, training books, coaching plans by me and my team. If you want the free diet and training program, get over to the website. Also join the 300,000 plus newsletter subscribers. And until next time, I am out.